What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Almost Patriots, the podcast. I'm your host, Rico, here in San Diego, California. Along with me, I got my buddy, oops, they're in the wrong order, Elvis in Indianapolis.
What is up?
And my boy Mike in New York City.
How's everybody doing?
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Going live this week, we got a lot of cool things to talk about. We're going to run in our usual show. We're going to do the In the News and talk about a little bit of the trending topics that have been going around social media. And Elvis is going to keep on his series with leadership. We're going to talk about bad leadership today. Mike's going to talk a little bit about how a lot of these government employees have accepted Trump's deal to take a hike and take a check and get the F out. And I'm going to talk a little bit about social jet lag and what that means and how it might affect your health. But today's episode, of course, every week we try to theme our episodes based on some of the fake-ass fucking holidays that people have made up so they can sell fucking Hallmark cards. But now that there's no post office, do we really need holidays? Good question,
Look, man,
guys.
Puxtani Phil. He's dope groundhog, all right? So...
And speaking of that, Elvis, I need... Episode is Groundhogs Day. Groundhogs Day is coming up. Tell us a little about Groundhogs Day. Elvis, I think you know more than anybody else here.
Can you hear me now? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so at the Gobbler's Knob, which is my favorite name ever, they have a groundhog named Puxatani Phil. Yeah, I mean it's like 13 letters or some shit. I don't even know how to pronounce it really. But
that sounds like an African American NBA player's name. Honestly, I gotta tell you.
I feel like this guy. So it said he predicted that the winter will be extended 100 times out of like 120 times. So it's like he always sees his shadow. So.
And he's accurate? Is he accurate?
I mean, how do you tell?
What's his win rate? Can we know?
Well, how do you tell whether or not winter's extended?
Again,
that's a question I have no answer for.
Yeah, I mean, like in San Diego, was winter ever really extended? I don't know, man. So
I mean, if it was, I definitely didn't notice shit. Even living in Virginia, I didn't notice shit. They'd be like, "Hey, man, winter's gonna last 6 weeks longer," and I'm like, "I don't give a fuck. I still got to go to school every damn day, unless you're gonna cut school down."
Good point.
Yeah, I have no fucking idea, but apparently he's a big deal in that part of the country, so they take that shit seriously. Mm-hmm. Good for them. Good for them.
I feel like they just keep them around in case they get hungry. You know, there's like a starvation thing or something like that. I mean, you know, hey.
I feel like there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that would sell their soul to not do shit for 364 days and then have the entire world's attention on one day of the year. So
I would say that most people in America are striving for exactly that lifestyle right now. It's what it seems like.
What's what's NFL Red Zone Hansen? He makes like I think it's like $500,000 a year, and he only works I think it's like 18 weeks out of the year because he just does Red Zone for the NFL.
It's good. Yeah, I wish I could do that. I tried to do that in my younger days, like come up with all these passive incomes, and I got bored as fuck, man. So like I need active incomes. That's just the way that I am.
I tried to be a gigolo, but I need like 600 days to make enough for 1 year, so it didn't work out.
Yeah, that doesn't say very.
It wasn't gonna work.
Yeah. That doesn't say very much about your services, Elvis.
No. Yeah, I was just gonna say you could have just asked me and Ricardo about that, and we would have told you that it was a horrible idea.
Hey, if at first you don't succeed, then shut the fuck up.
Absolutely, guys. All right, so this week, let's what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so this week, I'm sick. I was at NAM last week. I know I fucking talk so much shit when these guys are sick, so now I got it. And I was at the National Association of Music Manufacturers Conference every year in Anaheim. You guys should check that out. It's where all the new music equipment is showcased, and we were there with our company, Scorpion Percussion. And
shout out Scorpio.
Shout out Scorpion Percussion.
Never been. Got the T-shirt though.
Oh, hey, hold on a second. Give me a second. Hold on.
Oh God, you got me another T-shirt. If he comes back with
no.
his pants off, people, we're ending this podcast.
Shout
we're ending
out.
this podcast.
Ricardo, shout out Scorpio. Shout out Scorpio.
Scorpion
Shout out
Productions.
shout out Scorpio.
So last year I got Chris the Pioneer T-shirt, and this year it's they're doing the mixers was the one. So it's pretty
nice.
cool. This is this year's, and it's got like 30 years of mixers on the back. It says like DSM or whatever. But
exactly what every amateur DJ needs.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now Chris and I both have one. So next year when I go, Mike, I'll get you one, and you don't know how to paint.
I'll pass on it. I'll pass on it. Don't waste your money on me. Don't waste your money. But hold on, Ricardo. I just want to shout out Scorpio Production. Just shout out them.
Scorpion with an N, man. Scorpion percussion.
Sorry. Shout out Scorpion Percussion. Shout out.
Yeah. If you're a drummer and you like sticks,
You like sticks dipped in Slimer's asshole.
there's a lot of weird shit going on there. I'll check out the website. So there's this thing that goes around called the NAM flu, and I guess because it's like everyone walking around with each other for like 3 days in the same room and area, a lot of people get sick, and so I think that's what I got. In addition to that, I want to give a big shout out to some people that hosted us in LA over the weekend. First, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Susio, great producer. He had a show in Venice Beach with Genius Loxy. So shout out Henry Pope. We had a really great time there. Great DJs there, wonderful crowd, a lot of really attractive people. And then the next day, I want to give a shout out to Warehouse and Space Yacht. They hosted us up in downtown LA in the Fashion District for their event, which was out of control cool, except for some girl got stabbed in the neck at the rave. And apparently, I didn't notice. No, she's dead, man. And it happened like 60 feet away from me. I was in the green room.
He didn't even notice. He didn't even notice.
No idea, dude. Even when the cops came in and
Any
kicked us out.
What caused it?
It's all over the internet, guys. I think it was like a big stabbing. They shut down the whole block. And apparently, there's always some history, but some Asian dude, I think it was Asian, stabbed her right in the fucking neck. And so that was bad there, but nothing to do with the party. Big shout out, though. The party was amazing. Shout out to Oren Zigner, great DJ. Shout out to Techno Tupac, John. He's a great DJ up there. So had a lot of fun. Was in a lot of places, and I think that's why I'm sick. So that was my week, guys. What have you guys been up to?
Well, I feel like if you plan an indoor event in January, no matter what part of the country you're in, you're at high risk of some sort of sickness, right?
Yeah, but LA and California is a little bit different. If that's towards where we're located, because it's colder weather, you typically have a higher frequency of people that have flus or getting sick. LA, outside it's warm weather, you're not exposed to the elements, so I would probably assume it could be safe there.
But let me tell you, drawback was at the Rose Room in Venice. The bathroom was in like another building, so like everyone had to leave the fucking jam and go outside to use the restroom. I think that was not good. It was freezing by the beach.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that to you guys today. One of my favorite things about being in Indianapolis is all the bathrooms are like normal sized.
Like, dude, you don't know how much that matters, man. Like,
dude,
when we went to Europe, Chris,
in San Diego.
I tried to piss at this pub.
Everybody should move to Indianapolis, because because they got normal sized bathrooms.
Normal sized bathrooms, normal sized parking spots. I mean, it's amazing.
Yep.
I always speculated. I said, look, if you want to know an owner of a club that really cares about his customers or her customers, go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
if there's nice stalls, that person cares about your experience. If there's shit stalls, they just want to take your money. That's what I think.
If it's like what's that bar in Little Italy?
Place?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. What's the bar in Little Italy? The one next to your house that has the shit bathroom.
Waterfront.
Waterfront. Oh my god, yeah. Dude.
Shout out Waterfront. Great food. Great burgers.
I love that place, but god damn, the bathroom
shit bathroom
sucks.
Yeah. I've always wanted to do an expose in San Diego,
dude,
right? And like, just be like, yo, bro, like, you just charged me $40 to come in, and I can't even take a shit without 6 dudes staring at my fucking junk, right? Like, I mean, that's not comfortable for me.
If there's even a toilet seat.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
You're lucky there's a toilet seat.
It was
horrific.
Of course,
right. And let's not even talk about
take one sock off to wipe your ass. I mean.
It's bad, and so the cool thing about
they give you free popcorn.
because I've been here for a little while. So about 10 years ago, waterfront Little Italy guys, Little Italy San Diego, come visit, spend your money here, we'll love it. Used to have a window that went out to the backyard, but they had to pave it all down because people kept exiting through the window to not pay their tabs. It was
Oh
fucking
Oh
damn!
wow.
and I was
Yeah, I
like, why
just
did you
walk out the
guys?
front.
I was like, it smells in there, man. Why'd you guys lock up the window? And they're like, yeah, man, people be stipping on their tabs. And I was like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Gotta love San Diego. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That and the homeless.
Mike, how's everything in New York, buddy? Is it good
It's
weather
good.
over there, or is everyone
No,
celebrating?
we got
or-
like, no, we got like a sleet snowstorm today. It's like I want to say about 1 to 3 inches, but it's a mixture of like rain and hail today, which was like insane. So it's slippery all over. Weather has been up and down, cold like usual. Obviously, snow, everything coming in. The Mets did sign Pete Alonso. So a lot of
Yeah.
the Mets fans are happy about that. So you got a
awesome.
lot of Mets fans that are excited and looking forward to this upcoming season.
So for those of us who don't know much about baseball, tell us a little bit about the impact of this Pete Alonso. Like, what does that mean
Mets
for the
suck,
Mets?
so who cares?
I'm a Yankee fan, but overall baseball fan. Pete Alonso was the first baseman for the Mets. If he pretty much basically he can hit the shit out of the baseball. He's not really the best defender. He's slow, but he puts up like offensive numbers. So pretty much basically he puts up I think it's like 40 home runs a year, 100 plus RBIs a year. And he's been with the Mets. He was drafted by the Mets, so he came through the system from I believe it was the University of Miami. Came through the system. He's been a light bred. He's connected in the community. A lot of fans like him. So in the free agency, they thought they were going to lose him because his contract demands were out of control. But somehow, some way, they made it a deal happen, which I'm shocked when I looked at the contract details. But he's back in New York.
Good for him, guys. Thanks for the explanation. That makes a lot more sense. I like baseball. I'm just not a big historical fan, so I don't know a lot of the background to some of these decisions, but they're interesting. And I think, baseball's a great thing. Coming out to New York, Mike, and going to Yankee Stadium for the first time is something I think everybody should experience.
South Bronx. Go to the South Bronx. Very nice.
Actually, you get right. The cool thing is like you jump right out of the subway. I don't know if anybody's done this, but you get on the subway. I was in Midtown, and you get on the subway, and you sit on the subway, and that's entertaining for 30 minutes right there. But you get out of the subway station, and you're in front of the fucking stadium, dude. And then it's a cool experience because you go under, and there's like a McDonald's and like a fucking guy tap dancing, and you come out, and then there's a fucking stadium. And I was like, it was really impressive. Plus, the stadium is really not compact, but everyone has a good view. So I suggest if you go to Yankee Stadium, getting seats anywhere, man, that's a great place.
It's an expensive stadium, but some of the hallmarks of New York, like the Yankee Stadium, they kept, which is like all the bars right on that street, right under the subway. It's definitely a very good experience. It's something that everybody would see. But if you went to the old stadium, like the old Yankee Stadium, that was a baseball field. New Yankee Stadium is basically a corporate stadium, so that's why they charge more. Everything's more expensive, but also you have a view of the field from every seat.
Yeah, Jeff was telling me a little bit about shout out to Turbo.fm, shout out Turbo.fm. He was telling me about how that whole thing got taken over and they redid the stadium and stuff.
Yeah.
I will tell you though, bro, as I was walking around, we did a bunch of laps, right? There's motherfuckers with food carts cooking New York strips. I'm not talking about hot dogs. I'm you can get a fucking steak cooked in your face right there at the stadium. They had crazy barbecue. I mean, it was pretty much.
That's
And then
the
there's all
corporate
these
element.
restaurants. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the corporate element to it.
Yeah,
Not
I
a
really
bad-
like Capital One Arena because the subway stop is inside the stadium in Washington D.C.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've never.
Yeah, so you just come out of the subway inside the arena and just walk upstairs.
Well, that's like MSG. MSG is very similar. The stadium,
Yeah.
the
I look forward to
Penn
it.
Station. Yeah, MSG is Penn Station. So you take the train in, you're right there. You walk out, you're right in the arena.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. March 5th, we're going to go watch Capitals game in
in New York.
in New
Hey,
York.
You're coming to New York? You're coming to New York?
Yeah. We're not going to invite you though, Mike. It's just Chris and I are going, and we're going to take we're going to take the mayor of New York out to the Capitals game, see if we can convince him to
Absolutely. Perfect. Good.
sponsor the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have never done that in DC, but I heard it's really cool. All right, guys. Well, let's just jump into today's episode in the news.
Wait, we're not in today's episode yet?
Well, moving on. I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know where you guys have been. I'm a little sick, so I might be out of it.
Yeah.
Guys, in the news, a lot of great stuff. Most of it revolving around El Trumpo's decisions, politics, some zany shit. But this U.S. to take over Gaza thing, I'm going to say this is like the first thing that I've heard of that I really don't agree with. And I don't have a huge backing, but I don't like us trying to settle, like taking over ownership over the Middle East. I don't think it's going to be good. But maybe these guys know something else that I don't. There's a quick little video here. We can take a look at some of the stuff that
has taken to Truth
was being
Social
published.
just a few minutes ago to emphasize he means what he said when it comes to a U.S. plan for a takeover of Gaza. He wrote, the enclave will be handed over to the U.S. by Israel once fighting has stopped, and that the Palestinians in Gaza, he says, will be resettled in what he calls far safer and more beautiful communities in the region. President Trump also claimed no U.S. troops would be needed to facilitate this plan. Now, the president's plan to have the U.S. take over the enclave, it sparked outrage from U.S. allies and adversaries around the world.
That's right, guys. So that's a breakdown there, and I got to tell you, I don't like this at all. But I will have to say that Trump's ability to kind of pre-negotiate these things is far, far superior than a lot of these other leaders who I think are very comfortable with their positions. I have been a proponent of a conspiracy theory, which is completely alleged. But my theory is that when they attacked Trump before the election, he sent Kushner over there to cut a fucking deal with Bibi, okay? And then they literally planned the attacks so that Israel could expand what they wanted, and then they would help homeboy win the election. So I have no proof of any of that, and then hopefully I'll live. I'm not suicidal. But my thing has been that Trump got pissed, got tired of getting sued and all that bullshit, and said, okay, well, I'm going to fucking bring the Delta Force globally in, which is the Jews. They're the Delta Force guys, whether you like it or not. And then they handled it for him, and in exchange, he's going to support them taking over some land. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, there's an ally nature there between both countries. Trump has.
I can't hear you very well, Mike.
Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, it's better. That's better.
So I think they're an ally nation. Quite honestly, Trump's always had a good relationship with that country. Do I think this was pre-planned? I don't think so, because there's never an aspect of you knowing before the election if you're going to win. I think you have a strong suit that maybe potentially you would win, but it's never. I don't know if it really was pre-planned or he got into office. I can't see him going in there, taking control and developing it without military troops. I don't know if that's possible, because it's an area where it's under constant, fighting. So I don't know. I think if he does do it, it would be a good thing in certain elements. I think there's going to be a lot of havoc and issues overall with everybody in the region. And also it's going to upset a lot of the allies or a lot of the countries that are in the area. So it's to be seen. But one thing Trump does do is he uses things and he says things as leverage. And he says certain things to generate and kind of negotiate other agreements or other trade trade agreements or anything just in general. So it's to be seen from my viewpoint.
So do you think,
I have to agree, I guess, on that. I mean, looking at it from the history and the strategic standpoint, it seems like that would be putting people in harm's way. And I could definitely see like previous administrations, and I don't want to accuse anybody left or right, but where I would see people doing this specifically to, set up conflict so that we would have to go in to save those people. Like you put people in harm's way, and then it creates a conflict, and then it's like, oh, America, we have to go save the Americans, right?
That's great insight, Chris. That's actually what was going to be my next question, is like, what could be the motive for something like this?
That would be something that I would see if you actually try to do this without troops, because like it's constantly. I mean, it said 100,000 people have died there since whatever, I don't know the date, but I mean, constant conflict. 100,000 people have been injured since October 2023. So tons of conflict. But like to Mike's point though, that does make sense as well. That seems more like the Trump strategy is to say, hey, America's going to take it over, and then that forces a reaction that's people make change because they don't want America to be there, essentially. That makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's good. I mean, let's take a look at what'll happen there. I just wanted to, take opportunity to let people know that I don't think it's a great idea, but
It seems. I mean, if the motive is like what Mike said, if the motive is to just inspire people to be anti-American and make change, great. If it's to put Americans in harm's way that we have to save them, that's pretty shady.
yeah,
Pretty shiesty.
yeah. I think who knows? We'll see what's going on.
We'll
over
see what
there.
happens.
Take a look at that, guys. Next one here that I was interested in, and this one I have a lot of background in. USAID is evil. So for those of you out there who don't know, the talk of the town lately has been the shutdown, and I just saw a post recently here in the last hour where Trump has fired 97% of the USAID staff, and so he's crushed that. And so there's three, and let me give you some background on this, and we'll go into it. And so there are three arms of the U.S. government that were established to, and I'm just going to break it down, basically enhance economic warfare, right? And so the motive of these things was to expand the presence of the military and to go into countries and force them to put in central banks, allegedly. And so that is the World Bank, the IMF, and then USAID, or whatever they want to call it. And USAID is the only one, right, that doesn't lend money, right? So they give money away, right? So that's one of the things is they're just donations. And so the other two are primarily multilateral lenders. And what that means is that they get other countries to chip in, and then they loan money to somebody who needs to build a bridge or whatever, or put an infrastructure in. The problem is with these types of activities, and there's a great book if you want to read it called The Confessions of an Economic Hitman, is that when the countries can't pay the money back, then the U.S. leverages those loans to put in military bases and other things. And so that was sort of going on in the 70s and 80s, and I think a lot of people knew about it, was mostly involved with the IMF and World Bank. But this USAID thing is a lot worse than I even read about, man. And so, like, some of the stuff that this USAID has been funneling in, I just saw that they gave Ben Stiller like a number.
I can't see.
I don't see anything.
Hold on a second, guys. It's loading.
Sorry.
Ben
Just
Stiller.
make sure.
Give us a second here. I want to see this is loading here. I don't know why it's not loading. All right, buddy. Let me try it again. But they gave Ben Stiller millions of dollars to take pictures with Zelensky. Yeah. In addition to that, there was tons of $1 million going to news outlets, which should be the most fucking illegal thing known to man. Like, I'm not a censorship person, but I'm a freedom of information person, and what that means is that I don't like money mixing with information. Like, if you want to sell me something, that's great. But if you're going to sell me a fact that's, based on some sort of commercial gain, I can't take you seriously. So I guess, what is it? NPR was getting money, all this different stuff. Politico got $8 million. That should be it's just unbelievable. Anything else? Have you guys heard of any other of these things? That
I have a list pulled up right now.
Yeah, I
50
don't
million to fund condoms in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, fuck Gaza Strip. Yeah.
Well,
37 million to the WHO. That's, I mean, who knows with that? I mean, that could actually be used for good things. 16 million
WHO,
for
yeah.
funding institutional contractors in gender development offices. Whatever that means. There's one that says 32,000 for a transgender comic in Peru. I mean, that's not a lot of money, but still, like, yeah.
It is in Peru.
Yeah. It's weird. There's a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, well, the issue, which I love, so I'm going to break this down in a couple of different folds. One, Clearly, it was a mechanism to funnel money to, I think, people as well. Organizations, it was like kind of a bribery in certain ways, and countries. There's no reason that certain individuals should be getting money. Supposedly, Angelina Jolie got $20 million to go to see Zelensky, which is astronomical. So there's reports about that. There was $4 million for Ben Stiller. Now, that's what's being posted. Is it true? I don't know, because it's just being posted. Now, have I seen the books? Has this really come out and been shown? I haven't seen anything like certified, like from the from the Department of Governmental Efficiency actually releasing some of these numbers. But what they have confirmed is Politico, which is like the 8 million. Now, let me ask you a question. 37 subscriptions, I think it was in total, at I think how many thousands of dollars. It's all funky. So the big thing here with the Department of Governmental Efficiency, which I think is very important, is it's showing the waste, which everybody knew beforehand, but now it's actually going out there and showing where this money is going. And I think it's also showing hypocrisy. Who are the people that are getting this money, and how is it being funneled from the taxpayer dollar into donors and into countries where we're friendly or we're cutting checks? There was something in there that I saw. I think it was USAID. I think it was like something, couple of hundred grants to Ukrainian businesses for nothing less than $2 million. So they were more than $2 million. Like, it's astronomical. It shows the wasteful spending, and it's opening up, like, schemes. How these parties and the government are using these schemes, these politicians are using schemes to pay individuals or donors and their companies, and how to get around the ways, and they hide it too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It seems to me just like, and it's very concerning. It really seems like, we were hijacked by a bunch of fucking criminals, and they just siphoned as much fucking money as they possibly could from this country and spread it all over the place, including, their families. And I may be wrong. I mean, no one will ever know, okay? But it sure seems like it. And everyone should be mad, because everyone pays taxes. Everyone should be upset, because it doesn't matter what party you follow, or what social what do you call it, social signaling that you want to do. This is affecting your bottom dollar and your ability to survive. So this is fucked up, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, it's kind of I mean, I feel like when I'm looking at this list, I have the Colorado Gazette, the Colorado Gazette. I have that list pulled up. Like 80% of these are all some form of LGBTQ or inclusion, DEI stuff. And to me, that says that, I think in some instances, not all of them, some of the instances, I think that there was probably somebody who set out with a good intention, and then somebody probably hijacked some of it and tried to, that's why these numbers are ridiculous, right? Some of these numbers are, 8 million to teach a journalist a binary gendered language. I mean, yeah, maybe originally there might have been a like good intent behind that, but then somebody threw their thing in, and then they try to figure out how a way to launder money into Sri Lanka somehow, right? I mean, yeah.
Chris, I think you hit it on the head a little bit. I think, but you got to remember, that's what it's classified as. That's what it's classified in the system. Could it be a payoff of some sort, or are they using that money in a different way? Like, so that's the problem with this. And I hear a lot of people with the backlash, like, oh my God, how is Elon Musk going in there and looking at our systems? Well, I hate to tell those people that have problems with it, but it's what was voted in. People are sick of the wasteful spending. This is what we wanted. We have to cut back on spending. Why is government so big? And that's what everybody wants. So they're doing it now, and a lot of people are getting exposed because of it, and they're seeing this. So it's just putting a dash in, people's motives.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll be honest, like, if gas is $2 and 12 eggs are $1.99, I don't give a fuck if you cut your dick off. But if gas is $5 and eggs are $12, and you want me to ignore that and pay attention to the fact that you feel like cutting your dick off, I don't give a flying fuck. I don't care. There's other things that are much more important to survival than that.
I do. I care even if gas was $2 and eggs was $1.99 because it's still taxpayer dollars. We have enough people here in this country that are struggling on a daily basis that need that extra money if it's tax-related money that they're paying to the government. Why are we continuously putting this money out to other countries or other causes when we should be using this money? We all have the same feeling that the government's too big and they're collecting all this money, and where is it going? Like right now we're writing blank checks out to countries and people, and we don't even have the money. Like it's a problem.
It's definitely emotion. You can tell, like I'm saying, looking at this list, you can tell that it's very emotionally based politics. And I feel like a lot of times, like if you know, because of the last administration, basically, and again, not trying to like pick on the left or the right, but you know, some of these things are like, you know, promoting inclusion in Vietnam, 2.5 million, right? If you say, hey, I have an inclusivity, you know, thing that I need to do in another country, who's going to say no, right? I mean, nobody's going to shoot it down because like they're going to be seen as anti-inclusivity or anti-LGBTQ. And so all you have to do is put the LGBTQ label on this funding, and nobody can say no to it. Otherwise, you'll get, you know, condemned for being a bigot. Essentially,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like either way, you know, I think that maybe the swing is gonna piss some people off, but it's because the swing is coming from such a far
it's
other
gone
side.
too far.
Like if you had just
Yep.
like taken a couple wins and then given some back, I think, you know, the entire country wouldn't want to fucking extinguish you. But since you kept taking and kept making life harder and harder, well, you know, it's equal and opposite reaction. So I'm glad to see that some things are being cut. I know that we're spending a lot of money. I know that the trade deals are bullshit and have been for almost 35 years. I know that we've been basically funding money, and a lot of that was to ensure that the dollar was the global standard by giving it to a bunch of motherfuckers. And that's it's over now. You know, so we don't need to do that anymore, right? Okay, and so I think that can end as well.
I'm glad it's swinging the other way. It'll be interesting to see. I know it's really hard to pull it back without somebody getting hurt. And if you care too much about all the little people that are going to get hurt, then it's no change is ever going to happen. So you just got to start making change and, you know, figure it out.
Yeah. So Trump actually started his whole tariff thing, and I know that he put some big tariffs on Canada and Mexico, 25%, slapped them right off the bat. And I know that very quickly both sides have cut a deal with Trump. If I can get this image up, I think my computer is going to die before it even gets up there, so we may not have images today. Come on, buddy. You can do it.
Do you not have your computer plugged into the wall?
No, it's all plugged in. My computer's memory is out.
On this topic, I saw some interesting stuff about the percentage of GDP that imports and exports are for Canada and Mexico in comparison to us. So like Canada, I think is 30% of their GDP, 35% of their GDP is American exports, and Mexico was like 25% or something like that. And then in the reverse, America, the exports that we, you know, to Canada and Mexico, the percent of GDP is like 1.3% or something.
Yeah, we're not going to miss their products.
Yeah.
Well, it was really interesting. I saw Mexico, like there was an article. I think it was, I can't remember which news reporting company, but media company, but they were like, the main headline was avocados are going to cost $27 now or something like that.
You don't think we know how to plant a fucking avocado tree? Like what fucking century do you think we're living in? We have more land. Our country's 10 times the size of yours. Keep your fucking avocados.
It was manipulative in the nature where it was like, oh, like we can't put tariffs on this country because our avocados are going to be so expensive. It was like, come on, like let's stop with this media bullshit, the hypersensitivity, the fear mongering. It was like, and this is the sword that you're going to die on while you're talking about avocados. Like this is the big one. But like we talked about earlier, Trump throws these tariffs and then he uses them to negotiate. It's the threat, and then he uses it as leverage. Because what happened? It turned around, and Mexico decided to put 10,000 troops at the border, and they said that they would help with the issues with drugs and illegal immigrations. They would help try to put a stop to that.
He basically put those on there as leverage so that the other guys would pay for our border security, which they've just been letting people through.
Yeah, so it's the same thing with Canada. And don't forget, he also put tariffs on China. I think it was 10% in total. But it's at a point where he uses that negotiation power. He knows the U.S. is still king capital. It's everybody wants to come here. Everybody has opportunity. We consume the most products out there. We have a problem as a country in consumerism, but we consume everything, and everything comes here. That's how you make money. So at the end of the day, our economy is the strongest, and he still knows we can use that as leverage against everybody.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, there's already been this thing has already been played out. We've already seen it. So the whole reason why, like Toyota, as an example, manufactures so many cars in the U.S. is to get out of this kind of thing. They don't get taxed extra on cars they manufacture in the U.S. as long as they provide U.S. jobs. So the onus, here's the problem that we've been essentially avoiding as a country for a long time, is that we don't like to play the game where we put pressure on people to do things that benefit us. For whatever reason, we don't like doing that. So
Guilt.
the onus is on them. Trump is saying, look, we have the leverage. Now the onus is on you. If you want to get over these tariffs and you want to do these things, then start bringing manufacturing jobs into the U.S. to make products, and then we won't tax it. Those are the things that you have to do as a business. And yeah, it might not happen overnight, but that will benefit the U.S. It'll bring jobs into the U.S. Then it'll also benefit Canadian companies. So you got to work the whole picture.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's something that's going on, and I'm not saying that it's happening a lot, but I'm not saying that it isn't not happening. So they're manufacturing products and importing them in the U.S. in their countries, right? Most of them second and third world or whatever. And these people are getting paid a low wage. And then they work these factories making products that we consume, right? And until they have enough money to come over here. And then they come over here, and then they don't, then they use a lot of the social systems out there to get on their feet, right? And so this is fine, but I feel like it's a bad backlash of globalization. That's not how globalization works in any economics class I've ever taken, where you outsource something that they can do cheaper, and then the people that do it cheaper come over here and start putting a burden on your society. So I don't necessarily agree with globalization expansion, how it's been happening. I think there are a lot of unforeseen caveats. I also think economists don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about, because in order for their
Models?
equations and models to work, the fucking exterior has to be the same. And I've never been in an environment that stays exactly the same. So good luck with that.
Well, for a long time, this whole started because our corporate tax was 27% or 28% or whatever it was for a while. And that's what pushed all these jobs out. All these manufacturing jobs left because our corporate tax was 12% higher than every other country in the world. And so obviously that was lowered on Trump's first term, but it's not something that can just happen overnight. And nobody's going to bring manufacturing jobs and plants into the U.S. if they know that in 4 years the rate's just going to go back up to what it was before, right? So
yeah. Speaking of, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, speaking of foreigners coming to take American jobs, Luka Doncic just got traded to the Lakers.
You're such an ass. Yeah, so
that was shocking. I had no fucking clue that was gonna happen. Honestly, dude, I almost fell over at the gym when I saw it.
Yeah. So this is one of my topics. This is about Luka Doncic, but it's more about the economics of the NBA. So he got traded, but there was inside stories that the Mavericks didn't think long term he would be very beneficial because he was up for a supermax contract, which was I think like 5 years. He would have made I think it was like $70 or $75 million, and they felt like if they were going to pay him that amount of money, would he performs his contract. But it goes to a bigger issue with the NBA, which is more so and Mark Cuban said it best, is the NBA cannot survive on the media money anymore. There's only so much that you can do just in general in the NBA, right? So the media money is, it's a decent amount, but when you divvy that up to the teams themselves, fine. Okay, you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. They can pay their salary caps. But the bigger problem is you can only raise tickets so much. You can only raise concessions so much. It's been known. You raise everything too much, there's a cap. People don't go to the games. Now, the NBA has a ratings problem to begin with because nobody is attending games the way that they are, and they're trying to attract something. So Mark Cuban went into this, and there's actually been several other owners that have talked about this. And the one thing around it is that in order to make more money with a collective bargaining agreement, teams have to make more money. And how do you do that? And that's real estate development. So the way you do that is teams are now investing in real estate projects like luxury condos, entertainment complex, and commercial developments that are on the grounds next to the arenas. And you actually now have certain developers that want to build casinos that are next to the arenas because that generates a lot more money. And Mark Cuban said it's frankly, he couldn't be involved in the real estate element because he didn't know what the hell he was doing. And he didn't want to be involved in it. So it's a bigger issue with not just the NBA, but sports. So it's a dynamic right now that the NBA is struggling with, and team owners are going to have to deal with going forward. And it's just indicative of what the Mavericks did with Luka Doncic. They traded him away. He was a 5-time NBA first teamer, and he's 25 years old. You don't typically do that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the history of LA, this is what they do. They just find guys that, teams in smaller, what do you call that, business, smaller
Markets.
Markets, thank you. Yeah, smaller markets. And then they pay them enough that they come to a place where they can win championships. And if you look at the history of all the people they brought in, they've all won at least one championship within the first 2 years of coming on board to LA, and that's just how they do it.
Yeah. So
I have
the
to
one
look
thing,
at the CBA more to really.
yeah. So, but this is the whole thing. So it's getting to the point where the New York Mets, Steve Cohen, is trying to build a commercial complex next to the City Field. You have the Los Angeles Dodgers that have a renovation project. They have plans to build a real estate development right next to the stadium. This is not new. The Las Vegas Raiders did it. The Las Vegas, I don't know what the hell they're going to call. They're called now the Las Vegas Athletics, or the Oakland Athletic. They can't be the Oakland Athletics anymore. If you look at their renderings, they're trying to do it. All these teams are starting to do that more because they need to generate more revenue, and they have to diversify their revenue sources.
I think, I'll be honest, and this is going to piss both you guys off, but I'm just going to take a hard line on this. So I think what happened was 25 years ago, there was not a lot of data to keep track of as an individual. And one of the ways that you could keep track of data, forecast, and predict outcomes was to follow baseball, basketball, soccer, and sports statistics. The difference is, unless you're betting, the outcomes have no effect on your life. And now there's data everywhere, and I think simply people are paying attention to data that actually helps them get ahead instead of distracts them from things. I think that's why viewership is going down. I think if I'm going to memorize 4 years worth of data, I want to win some fucking money. I don't want to just predict the winner of this game, which may or may not be scripted. Okay? And so I do believe that, and that's just a speculation, that people are actually paying attention to things that they're more interested in because they have a bigger effect on their outcome.
I think that there's probably true. I think that's probably true in some aspect. I think what I have seen from the people that I have listened to and paid attention to regarding sports and in my personal life, so this is all anecdotal. They don't want to watch anymore because athletes talk. Like, how many times you ever heard Kobe Bryant say anything other than just like, I need to work harder, I need to do more, and let's go, right? And now all these athletes are going out there and saying all this crap, uneducated, just whatever it is about whatever politics nonsense they're talking about, and people don't want to watch them play basketball because they don't want to hear them talk about politics.
Like when you
they're
said
killing themselves.
when you said, Chris, when you were like, "Hey, let's do a show where we talk to the DJs or we talk about DJs," and like, I'll be honest with you, the same thing about sports. Nobody gives a fuck what the DJ thinks. Yeah, dude, I don't even care, and I'm a fucking DJ. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I want you to play some fucking good music.
Yeah.
And the $40 I just wasted on Molly, I better have a good time, and I better not hear any skipping or whatever it is. And the DJ talks through the music just like the athlete talks through their performance and competition. And the truth is that nobody gives a fuck what they have to say. That because their medium isn't talking, their medium is performance.
Right.
So it's a two-headed dragon too. So one, the games have the game style has changed. So the NBA, for example, knew that scoring points was the big thing that attracts people to the arenas. So what did they do? They allowed players
three-point
to.
line.
They created the 3-point line, but they just the NBA teams now players just shoot threes. They don't go to the basket. So the game changed, and the product right now, I hate to say it, sucks. It's horrible. It is one of the atrocious products. NBA right now literally sucks. If you watch a game, most teams don't play defense. They throw up threes the entire time, and it's not even fun to watch. But the second element of that, because I went on a rant, I don't remember. But I'm going to try to. I'm going to try to remember.
Well, let's move it along,
sorry.
guys. I don't want to get stuck in a sports hole, and we're already
Double dragon.
too much.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Two-headed dragon.
Do you know what double dragon is? Is when you're shitting and
Real
puking at the
estate.
same time because you're
That
sick.
wasn't what I said. I
So
said
that's
a two-headed.
what you're trying
I
to
said a
talk about.
two-headed. I said a two-headed dragon, asshole.
It should be two-headed snake because we're in year of the snake. So, guys, next topic is
Damn
this government employees thing, which is kind of a shock to me. Mike, this is Mike's topic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
So-
we're gonna have to listen to him talk. But before the show started, I saw the number is up. I think the number's up
Yeah.
to like 60 or something like that now.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things about this. So one, if you're not aware, the Trump basically wants everybody back into the office. And he said, if you don't want to come to the office, that's fine. We'll offer you a buyout. There's more than 2 million federal employees across the country. And today was the last day. Either you choose to resign or you stay in your job, but you show up to the office. Now, got in this whole thing because there's a U.S. district judge that issued a temporary restraining order because there is a litigation going on by the unions challenging the legality of the buyout program. So what union is it? It's the American Federation of Government Employees, and two other unions filed a lawsuit in Massachusetts. What a surprise. It is a very liberal court system. So they're they're seeking to overturn the buyout, arguing that the administration lacks any statutory basis for the unprecedented offer. And one of their arguments was, well, they just don't have the money to pay these employees for 8 months of severance.
We'll fucking print it like the last.
I was just gonna say we're gonna print it. So look, I'll put it very simply. They're trying to reduce the head count of the government. They feel like the head count of the government is way out of control. And is there legality to this? Yes, there is. Is this going to be a court battle? 100%. And the issue here, though, is I think they were expecting a lot more employees to accept the buyout route. And I think the number right now is 40 or 60,000. I think they were anticipating in the hundreds of thousands. Still, 40 to 60,000 people, accepting that is still a hefty sum. But I think in the hundreds of thousands, they were expecting overall in the next 4 years, they would save about, I think it was like $10 billion or something in their projections.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I honestly feel like, and I think this has come a lot quicker than I expected it, but there's and I think I told Chris this, there's going to be two types of people, boys, and there's going to be those who are up to date with the pace that the world and technology is changing to, and there are going to be those who are going to be behind. And so, I think that COVID was the first, axe to the log. And sooner or later, it's going to split in half. But there are going to be millions, tens of millions of Americans with no fucking skills, no desire to learn a new skill, and tons of needs. And so, this to me seems ridiculous because I know all over the world specifically in some of these less developed countries, anyone would give, their family away if they had to come and have a secure government job in the U.S. government. And so I think this is kind of atrocious that these people.
You know how easy these, I'm sorry, Ricardo, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you know how easy governmental jobs are? Like the ones that we're talking about here. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to make it sound like that. There are definitely governmental jobs that are very challenging. You're dealing with challenging topics, you're dealing with challenging things. But I was looking at a report of how many administrative assistants there are. It's in the hundreds of thousands of administrative assistants, and they're making over six figures each administrative assistant. By the way, don't forget about government benefits are top line. So it's out of control. The one thing, the last thing I'll say on this topic though is they gave them an ultimatum. If you come back, there will be performance standards, and you better be able to work in the environment with the new reforms across the government. So
Gotcha.
they're basically putting in place like, hey, if you're coming back, you better be on board. If you're not, I'm sorry, we're going to find something else.
Well, that's interesting. And Chris, how do you feel about this, bud?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's hard for me to imagine, a lot of people want to quit their current job under the current economy. I mean, obviously it's improving, but it's only been a couple weeks, right? So there's a lot of risk involved in just giving up your job, especially most people are leveraged, which Ricardo and I have talked about. The second thing, I mean, I'm not going to lie. If you're a purple-haired troglodyte with like two brain cells that you can rub together, I would go back to the office because some white asshole is gonna fucking say some dumb shit, and I'm gonna get a sue for, wrongful cause or whatever, and make more money.
It's a good point. I mean, like, it's not, the laws haven't changed. I mean, I think like a lot of the protections are in place that people wanted. They're just not main conversations in the social zeitgeist, and I think they never should have been. But
Yeah, trust me when I tell you, those individuals that go back to the office, they're already setting up their next move because they're not getting the 5 to 10% rate that they were expecting. They're already thinking of restructuring. They're already thinking about realignments and reductions. They're already having ideas on how to lay people off, and furloughs could be in store as well. Trust me, they're already thinking of the next avenue. You got very smart lawyers and businessmen on top of this that are trying to downsize. There's going to be you're going to see a next move after this, and they're going to be prepared for it.
Fun times.
And
should be interesting.
Yeah, and Ricardo's microphone course 1 hour in stops working. Hey, Ricardo, it's great that you're talking. Go to the next. Go to the next slide and wait. There you go.
I wasn't talking. I had it muted so you wouldn't hear my sniffling, guys. Yeah, I mean, coming from a software background, and one thing that Chris helped me understand was this thing called air speeding, something that I used to do. So, Chris, I was like a closed system optimization specialist. And, bro, there are very few things that I have come across in my experience that I can't automate. And, like, let me tell you, dude, especially now. And so, like, I would say if you're going back to the office, you piss your boss off. He may have half your salary added onto his by eliminating your job with some software. So, I would, whatever's coming is going to be extremely serious. It's not going to be any of this, like, bullshit in the park. Like, people are going to face serious consequences, and I think people should take it a little bit more seriously, honestly.
Yeah, they're going to bring in the Bobs from Office Space.
Yeah, Office Space. I think exactly. It's going to be I don't even think they're going to come. I think you're just going to not have a job tomorrow. Yeah.
They're not going to come?
Oh, Jesus. Let's move on, gentlemen. So let's take a nice little break from our deviance here. And so, as you guys know, for those of us who've been watching the show, I had to watch it because I'm on it. Chris has some great history, 20 plus year Marine, Eagle Scout, has overcome a lot of trauma in his life. And so we look to him for some leadership here in general, the way that we look to Jesus. But today's topic, Chris is going to talk about bad leadership. Buddy, take it.
All right, so real quick, just so this will be two parts, right? The first part is that the best thing about bad leadership is it's the only way to learn how to not be a bad leader. So if you can change your paradigm and view bad leadership as an example of what not to do, my favorite is whenever you take over a new job, look back at your previous boss and anything that you didn't like about that guy or girl, just pick one thing that you really didn't like, and just your first act as the new manager is to not do that thing. Just don't do the one thing that you didn't like about your previous boss, and you'll be head and shoulders above everybody else. The second thing is, what's up?
I used to ask people when I got interviewed, like about a position, I would say, what was it about the last person in this role that didn't meet your needs? And I want them to tell me what they didn't like so that I can only work on those things.
Good question. That's a good one.
The other one. So what I want to do, and I'll start with the story, and then while I'm telling the story, you guys can come up. And I wanted all three of us to come up with like an example of like
Hold on,
bad
Chris.
leadership.
Let me get ready.
Oh, shut up. But bad leadership. So I had a guy who was one of those, hook up his buddies, only take the people that he liked at work on certain trips and everything. And then he went on a trip to Hawaii, and he told all the guys that were in the group, hey, I'm on this trip to Hawaii, but if anybody calls, I'm on a work trip, right? I'm not on leave. But he went on leave, and so his wife called, and the wrong person answered the phone. Turns out that he was in Hawaii with his girlfriend, and was telling his employees to lie for him, and got in trouble, lots of trouble.
I'd love to work for this guy.
Yeah, he was a complete piece of shit. But yeah. So I thought that was basically that's a really good example of what not to do. So I hope
Which one?
hoping you guys had some stories.
Have a marital relationship?
Cheating on your wife's probably bad. but cheating on
Or
your
not
wife
tell your employees.
and also telling your employees to lie. Yeah, that's
bad leadership. Bad leadership. I have one of my bosses who recently he left the company. One of the females in the office, he was writing like really hard. Like he was always emailing her, texting her, and one day he made a comment to her, and she shared it with the entire office, where he he was basically like, I don't care if you have kids and you have to take care of your kids, you're staying in the office to get your work done. And she told him basically like, hey, every day I got to be out of here at 5:00. Like literally, you hired me to be a 9 to 5. I'm leaving at 5:00. I have kids. When you hired me, I have to get my kids. And he basically told her like, no, you're staying here. Like you're not going to get your kids. I don't care if you're a mother. You're staying here. Probably she left the company. And something you don't do. You don't. You understand your employees. You understand their circumstances, and you work with them. You don't kind of force them. But yeah, that was one of those things that stood out to me. Oh, I'll give you another one if you really want a great.
Well,
No, that was good. That's good.
A good fix for that would be, have her come in earlier.
Yeah.
If it's
bad
possible.
leadership. All right, so I feel like bad leadership. I think the worst examples of poor leadership.
What about that chick that basically got you to quit?
That was bad leadership, but I mean, that wasn't. She wasn't. That was more like LGBT. DEI. That was somebody who had zero experience in her role that got put into a role and was really insecure and decided to try to eliminate all of her threats. Is what basically
so eliminating competition is a terrible leadership trait.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I think the first sign of being a douche leader is if you call yourself a leader. Like I've been in the room and motherfuckers who are like, I'm a leader of all men. I'm like, oh, dude, let me run the list down of shit that you just like, all the checks that your mouth wrote that your fucking actions didn't cash. Are it's like, brrr. And so
I'll give you. Go ahead, Ricardo.
No, like I think that's mine. Like like if you're in the room and someone's like, I'm a leader, and then I'm just like, nah, I walk right the fuck out.
I have to say this story because this is one of them on my top of my list. Take an interest in your employees when there's a pandemic going on to make sure they're okay. I had a boss at my old firm when the COVID pandemic was breaking out in New York City, right? Had a team conference call, not asking us how we're doing or our families, basically threatening us to make sure we wrote our reports, we billed their hours for their month, because bonuses were coming up, and if we wanted to make money, if we wanted to get a bonus, we had to make money. Didn't ask anybody about their family, just told us to do our reports, bill. I don't want to hear any excuses. Don't ever do that in your life. Don't ever. Take an interest. Make sure people are okay, especially when a pandemic's going on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm sure the pandemic probably pushed people to the limits of their ability to lead, especially, in an environment that is uncertain, which I have no problem in, but apparently a lot of people do. But,
That guy was a dick.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ways too. I mean, there's been some soft leadership that I've thought was just there's nothing worse to be like on a team and everybody wants to kick ass and your boss is just not there and just not willing to do anything.
Not
and
present.
Kind of like there just wants like a fucking what do they call it, a pension and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, bro, I get it. You just don't want to fucking cause any stress, but you don't want to move it forward either. And then, I mean, people got to eat. But when you see people, not online, but like when you see people in your neighborhood that have really big houses, not all of them, and nice cars, it's because they did the same job you did, but they made it better, or they stole, one of the two. But you cannot do this. You cannot go and get B's and then get into a corporate America and do just enough to not get fired and expect to live like
respect.
Jay-Z. Yeah,
Expect
or
for-
respect. Yeah. Like,
Well,
if you're not
that one's-
improving anything you touch, then you're not doing work.
Yeah.
That one's always insidious. My least favorite leader are the ones that try to do, make everyone happy, and so they basically do nothing except just promise everyone that they're going to fix their problems all the time, and they just never accomplish anything because you literally can't appease everyone. Somebody at some point you're going to have to say no. I cannot do that for you because I'm doing this other thing. But if you just say yes to everyone and don't do anything,
What about micromanagers?
That
What
was
about
me.
micromanagers?
I totally am guilty of that. I was such a people pleaser in corporate America. It was just
it
like,
happens.
dude, it was just, and it was downfall for many different reasons.
But the caveat, real quick, Ricardo, not because I think you're underselling yourself a little bit, is I think that
No,
you
you're
were a
not.
people pleaser, but the alternative to that was that you would just do everything yourself.
Yeah.
I was very effective and prolific, or whatever you want to. What is it when you can do a lot of fucking work and you do it well and you do it
Yes.
fast? And I think
Oh,
my
you were a
biggest
bum.
my biggest thing was the need to show people that I could do the work this way when I should have just kept my fucking mouth shut and just done the work that I needed to do. And helped
Delegate.
Improved. Yeah, and then delegated a lot of the rest. So.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. Would you rather have a boss that's like extremely friendly and always saying yes, or would you rather have a boss that's a micromanager, that's always on top of you?
Neither.
and,
That's
like-
why I have no boss.
Yeah.
Both of those are bad. Both of those people
Yeah,
can't
that's my point.
set boundaries. Both those people can't
Yeah.
set boundaries. So
Yeah.
you need somebody that's willing to say no. I can't help you. I have other things, but also somebody who's not just standing on your desk watching you work all day long.
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
I agree.
for me, it's like camping, dude. Like if I met someone, right, and I wouldn't take that guy camping with me, like I didn't think he could make it, or like I wouldn't have a good time, I will not work with or for that guy. Period. And that may be a
You take
luxury.
employees with you to camping?
I mean, so like,
Why do
yeah,
you take
so like-
employees with you camping? What are you doing on these camping trips? I want to know.
So
Guess
He's
who's
gonna
put
put me on mute. He's
Yeah.
putting me in the.
on the micromanaging
And
front,
Mike's on mute.
in the Marine Corps, we would get away with it a little bit more, obviously. But my favorite, and this is more of like it's a more specific example, but I had this guy who he fucked up, right? He fucked up, and I get all these phone calls about the Marine who fucked up, and I'm like, Roger that, I'll take care of it. And so I'm like, hey man, here's the deal. You fucked up, and I have to be the bad guy. So here's what's going to happen. I need this done. You have an hour. Go out there and get it done. If you come back and it's not done in an hour, then what we're going to do is I'm going to micromanage you all day long. I'm going to tell you when to piss. I'm going to tell you when to shit. I'm going to tell you when to eat. I'm going to tell you, when to jump, when to sit down, all this stuff all day until you get it done. or you can be a fucking big boy and go out there and do it yourself and just fucking do it. And every single time they come back done. Like they don't want me to micromanage their every movement for the rest of the day. So you can set those kind of, I mean, it's obviously that's a little extreme example, but in the corporate world, you can say, hey, look, here's the deal. If you get it done, great. Big boy rules apply until you fuck them up. Big boy rules apply until you fuck it up.
Yeah,
Just want to say I'm 18 for 18 getting put in the penalty box over here,
yeah.
and I'm muted.
And no disrespect to corporate America, I think there's a lot of great opportunities and a lot of smart people in corporate America. I think it's a great path if that's the one that serves you. So no. I mean, I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying that these are some of the things. Like, I also encountered a lot of great leadership, a lot of really smart people.
100%.
Yeah.
I also encountered a lot of really talented people that were limited by the organization just by being in a building with other dumb fucking people. Yeah. Especially when those people have higher positions than you, then you can't use your brain. Yeah. Exactly.
And they tell you you're wrong on everything when that's all you do.
Yeah, those people that say no to everything that you say, that means they don't know how to do your job, and so they don't know.
Or how about the indecisiveness? They can't make a decision. They can't.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah. How about the always like, I don't, because they don't want to put ownership on it.
They don't want to take responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah, those people suck. I hate those people.
It's kind of. I mean, I was about to say something completely.
Shit or get off the pot. That's
crass.
Shout out Scorpion. Shout out Scorpion.
Scorpion. Percussion.
Just fucking make a choice, man. We'll follow it.
Or just stick to the same principles you had before you started work. Like, I think what's happened is that a lot of people are fucking pieces of shit and they sell out. They sell out so they can have a steady income. And, and I'm not saying that that's bad because people got to eat, but like, be aware of the situation that you're in. You're compromising your own values so that you can gain a paycheck. That's what you are.
Yeah, but those are a lot of people that do that are living an unauthentic life.
That's what I mean.
They're not achieving their potential. See, I've worked in companies with some very, very smart people that should have been so much higher up, but they were so afraid because they were happy with just being in the middle. And they'll never experience some of the best things in life. They'll never experience the growth that you're intending to in life. So, yeah.
I literally just had I saw a podcast today that I had to comment on. It was the same thing. And basically what I said was that the problem is that when you can blame an external factor on your mediocrity, it's more terrifying to take a chance and find out that you're just mediocre than to just blame your mediocrity on an external factor.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's actually a really good point. Not failure, but just like mediocrity. Like, say, hey man, like I know I'm not gonna fuck that up, but I'm probably not gonna be great. Like for me, darts, definitely.
Yeah, you suck.
But people are terrified of finding out that they're actually mediocre, even though they're just mediocre. And if they just, were happy with where they are, they would actually grow. But because they're afraid that they can't achieve something that they don't want to try for, then they just blame everyone else for why they're where they are, and never grow out of it.
But that falls back right onto the topic, bad leadership. See, if a leader that sees this and somebody's afraid to do something, you push them to be better. You push them to grow. And a bad leader will never push them if they don't want to be pushed. Sometimes you got to push people in order for them to get better at life.
I would say that a leader is only as good as the feedback he gets from his subordinates.
Well, everything you guys just said, I mean, it really comes down to the difference between managers and leaders. So like if you're a manager and you don't have a lot of bandwidth because you're, in a flat hierarchy and, you got a lot of tasks to do, guess what? If you want to be a leader, that means you got to do extra on top of that shit, which is exactly what Mike just said. You got to go and talk to the people and find out what they need to be better individuals and better, people. But managers don't do that. Managers just work their 9 to 5 and they do their shit and they say that they have too much work to do and, all that other stuff. But that's the difference right there.
What do you think? What do you guys think? Before we go to the next topic, what do you guys think the percentage? And so let's call those people that do not just enough to not get fired, but let's call them, like just enough to like keep the ball rolling. We'll call those people NPCs, right? Because they just keep the program running. Like, what percentage of the workforce do you think is in NPC mode on a daily basis?
95%.
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, 95%. So if you're in corporate America, it's a very heavy dosage of that because you're just a cog in a wheel. And everybody is satisfied. That's the reason why a lot of corporate America companies get the reputation. Like when you work there, you get that reputation that you're just there for the 9 to 5. You're just going through the motions. That's typically how it is. You usually have your managers. Sometimes they're appointed, but your higher ups, like your executives, people like that put a little bit extra time in. If it's networking, if it's understanding what their job functions are, and how that correlates to other parts of the company to make the company more profitable, you get a small dosage of people that way as well.
Just because I don't want to continue on this too much, my entire master's paper is on employee engagement, so that's what we'll talk about next week.
Yeah, I remember that. I was
Well,
part of that research project with Chris. It was a tough one, man. I can't believe you actually correlated stuff.
Huh?
What was the next topic? What was the next topic?
Shout out to Jeff Corrigan, Vandelay Industries. I know that's from a movie, but I forgot which one it was.
Probably the Bobs.
The Bobs. Oh, Vandelay.
No,
the next
Vandelay
topic.
Industries.
That's my guess. I don't
No,
know.
Vandelay Industries. Why does that sound so familiar?
I know.
We're talking about bad leadership.
Any of
I
our
don't know.
viewers, know what that means, Jeff. Coded.
I'll look it up.
So I want to
Coded
talk
messages.
a little bit about social jet lag. I had videos and stuff of my computer's acting up.
Seinfeld.
We're just going to keep going. There you go. Vandelay Industry. So this week I watched a podcast. Shout out to Diary of a CEO. That's a cool podcast.
It's a good one. I like it.
I would check it out too. Especially if you like the color gray. There's a lot of grays going on in that. It's very calm.
It's a cool table. It's a very dark gray table. Yeah.
Very English. He's very proper. It's a nice, clean English boy. But he had Sarah Berry, Dr. Sarah Berry, on his show, who works at the Nutritional Institute, or I'm sorry, is a professor at of nutritional studies. And one of the things that she brought up was a term that I haven't heard of, but I think a lot of us are sort of suffering from, and this is called social jet lag. And the discussion was based around sleep and the importance of sleep. And I didn't know what social jet lag meant. And so what social jet lag is, that people, usually younger, who have a work week where they're going to bed at 10 a.m. and getting up at whatever in the morning, and then on the weekends they're out till 3 in the morning and they're disrupting their sleep schedule. And so the definition of social jet lag is any time that your sleep schedule is altered by plus or minus 1.5 hours. And so when you do that equation, I think a lot of us are experiencing a lot of social jet lag. The amount of inflammation in the brain and in the body when you experience this type of sleep disruption is extremely high, especially in the mornings. The same type of inflammation that can lead to Alzheimer's and to degenerative diseases. Your pH in your body is different when you don't sleep on your regular sleep schedule when you wake up in the morning. So there are a lot of really good, interesting things to know about this. There's something, just because I'm a DJ and I also work a day job, I guess, or whatever. And so
Yeah, he's really not a DJ. He's not really a DJ.
No, I just stand. I'm like an emotional.
Shout
I'm
out
like
Scorpion Percussion.
emotional support DJ. I'm an emotional support DJ. And but I do this and it's fucked me up, man. I'm telling you, dude. Tomorrow I got an event, here in San Diego at Spin. I'm gonna be up till 5 in the morning, whether I like it or not. Okay. Tonight there's one here down the street, and so I have things to do late at night, and it fucks up my sleep schedule. So, this is something that I wanted to sort of discuss and bring up, and just educate everybody on who doesn't know what social jet lag is. But this is something that's important. The importance of getting the same sleep. What are your sleep schedules like, guys? Do you guys do any social jet lagging, or do you guys pretty much maintain a basic sleep schedule consistently?
You want me to go, Mike, or you want?
Go ahead.
All right.
Free feel.
So I actually didn't know that this was what it was called. I figured this out. I don't know. We'll say a couple years ago. I don't remember, but I realized when I was in the Marine that I could never sleep Sunday night. No matter what I did, I was always tossing and turning Sunday night. And when I was younger, I used to fight it, and I used to like watch TV or watch movies or whatever. And I was always like Monday and Tuesday driving home. I would always like almost fall asleep, almost get into car accidents every Monday and Tuesday on the commute home. And at some point, I just started, forcing. At some point, I just started forcing myself to just, close my eyes all night on Sunday night, because I would at least feel like moderately better. And now, the last, I would say, especially since I moved to Indy, if I can help it, I really try not to fuck it up too much. Like on Friday night, most of the nights, I'm in bed by 10 and I get up at 7 and I go to the gym like I normally would. Saturday sometimes, I mess with it a little bit. But lately, if I'm staying up late on Saturday night, I try not to drink, because then, otherwise, I can't sleep Sunday night, and then my Monday is essentially ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know that was what it's called. But yeah, I've suffered from it. I suffered from it from a long time, because I used to just drink and stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning, and then get up at 7 and go play basketball all day, and then wonder why I can't sleep on Sunday night.
That's awesome. I love basketball all day. I used to do that when I was 15. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, just sweat it out.
Yeah.
I miss
I
basketball.
typically have a similar schedule. I try to get to bed before 12 o'clock and wake up before 6 o'clock.
Is that when your tennis training usually begins, around 6 a.m.?
But Roger, yeah, that's typically how it works. It's probably in between the time I get up to go to the bathroom and get my vape while the podcast is still going on.
That's not what I got up to do.
And
You want to know what I
my
got
Roger
up
You
to
Federer-
rub
do?
one out. It only takes 12 seconds.
No, I walked over to
Yeah.
my kitchen and ate another edible, and then pissed in the sink so I didn't have to go upstairs.
That's pretty disgusting. Okay, let's cut that.
Don't
from the
eat at my
podcast.
house.
No, my schedule is pretty much the same. But on the Fridays, typically I go to the gym a little bit later. Saturday, Sunday, I really try to cut out alcohol, because when I was younger, I did drink on those Fridays, Saturdays, and I remember that feeling of just losing all Saturday or all Sunday, and I hated that. And I would never be able to recover on Monday, even if I drank on Friday. So I try to stay consistent. Now, does it happen all the time? No. Sometimes I go to sleep at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I have to be up at 6, 7 o'clock. But I definitely understand. I did, like you said, I didn't know there was a term for this. Now that I'm understanding it, because everything nowadays has labels.
You staying up all night and watching My Little Pony reruns?
No, actually, I'm watching. What is it right now? I'm watching The Night Agent. The Night Agent. I'm watching.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I
it
saw
started so
the new
dumb.
season. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw the first episode. It was so bad.
yeah, it was
Oh
horrible.
yeah,
It's
because
a
you're
guy
military. You're military. All right, let us all
It
enjoy
was
it.
just the guy sitting in a fucking room with a phone. I was like, this is bullshit. This is the dumbest
what?
fucking show I've
you know
ever
what?
seen in my
I
life.
knew that
I-
chick was gonna die from first 30 seconds into the thing. I was
Wait,
like, oh, that
the
chick's
best
dead.
part is I love all these movies where everybody gets punched in the head 8,000 times. They get hit over the head with poles, like with guns, and they just back up, like they get back up and they're like fighting,
And then
it's
they
like,
start like hacking the Pentagon with a
Yeah.
fucking concussion. I'm like, bitch,
Yeah.
have you ever been
Yeah.
punched in the face?
Yeah,
You
It's
her
can't
so
spell your own
ridiculous.
fucking name for the first 5 minutes.
hacking
your
shit.
face swells up and you're like, oh,
We
Ever had a
digress.
concussion? You just like can't even.
yeah, yeah.
We digress. So yeah, guys, watch your sleep. For more information on this, check out the Diary of a CEO podcast with Dr. Sarah Berry. She goes into detail about a lot of things. Chris, one of the things she mentioned on the show, which I'm still not 100% with, was that she, in all of her research, has not found any evidence that seed oils are harmful. And so she gave a big explanation on that. I didn't give a fuck. I'm still not eating seed oils. I don't think they know what they're talking about. But it's interesting. Watch the podcast. You know, everyone's got their body of work. And then wanted to go into this really quick, guys. I'm predicting a market dip coming. I predicted one based on the fact that every time the Fed has raised interest rates before November, as they have, there has been historically a dip within the next 12 to 18 months of a new president. So one of the things that I'm speculating on is that now that we have all these business oligarchs sort of involved in our government, they're going to want to take over shit, and that's fine. I don't care. But
Drop the price first.
you got it. They're not. They don't want to pay premium for what they want to take over. So I think they're going to drop the price. I think they're going to move the market down. So take a look at this, guys. I don't. Like I said, just a feeling, just from watching the
You think
the
it's
news.
going to be a negative return year? You think it's going to be a negative return year? Meaning?
No. I think there's going to be, like, from current levels of capitalization, I think that we're going to see it to 25 to 30% adjustment.
This year, you think it's going to?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what's
drop
gonna-
from 25-30%.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because what's going to
25
happen?
or 30%. That's like the Great Depression.
No,
That's a steep. That's a steep
You're talking
fall,
like
dude.
maybe 7%.
We had
like
a
the-
four. We had a 4% the other day, and it was like it wiped out like what was it, $3
You're
trillion
right.
in the
Wait, so
market.
that the DeepSeek thing did 4%. Okay, I would say closer to 10, like 8 to 10. Man, I think we're gonna see a pretty big adjustment. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. Don't listen to me. I mean, I'd like to be wrong.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
So one of the things I think is going to bring a lot of pressure onto this that hasn't in the past is that. So one of the things that is great about the policies that Trump is doing is that he's instilling tariffs, which we discussed in a previous episode was the way that America made money before the Federal Reserve Bank got their hands on our politicians. There was no income tax. So I think that's great. But what does initially happen is that there is an inflationary pressure when you put tariffs on goods and services that are imported. And what I think is going to happen is that the Fed, instead of lowering interest rates, is going to try to combat this pressure by raising them again. And I think we're going to see a little bit of a lockup there. And I think what that's going to do is going to force some of the, inflation on stock prices out. Like if you're trading at like 14, 15, 20 times EBITDA, like I would sell your stock. I think there's going to be a little bit of a correction coming because as we move to bring a lot of these policies here, you're not going to be able to hide shit overseas. You're not going to be able to move things from one silo to the other. So I do think we're going to see a little bit of a correction coming based on the new administration's policies, the Fed's policies, and historical data. But I could be wrong.
So, if you think that's the case, what do you do?
I think you should sell your stocks that are not crypto now, and I think you should buy store of value. I like gold. I think the 10-year. I would keep an eye on the 10-year Treasury yield, man. I mean, that's.
You're talking about bonds.
That's one, yeah, and then the other one is I think real estate is always a great investment. I don't think real
estate's always
estate.
a great investment.
I don't think in 10 years buying a home is going to be feasible for any single individual.
Yeah, well, I agree with the real estate element. I have kind of a different perspective on the market. I don't think it's going to drop 8 to 10%. I just can't see that. I think business is always going to find out. Like, you also got to remember, it's the FANG group that's running the market. Like, it's been running the market for how many years now? You know, the top 7 companies in the world. I think that's going to continue. I think you're going to get some stragglers that also continue to grow. Like, you see Palantir right now that's basically is going through a stock, explosion. I think you're going to have some of that. I don't see the market. I think that the market will dip for a period of time based on the Fed's policies. I can't see the market going down. I think there's too much strength and momentum right now. Fundamentals are non-existent anymore as it relates to investments. It's more hype. It's more speculation. That's where we're going. And the bond has always been a strong bet within the last 8 years. It's typically what's going on. Crypto is something that's happening, but the crypto market is also a safe haven for finances. I just can't see the market going down 8 to 10% just based on what kind of going on. He's trying to cut costs like taxes and bloatedness, which in turn put more money in your pocket, which would in turn put more capital in your.
It doesn't put more money in your pocket. It puts more money in the government's pocket, and so there's.
Well, if he's cutting everything, cutting everything, the government's getting smaller, so your budget's not higher. So then, if he cuts, which he came out today with his tax plan, cutting Social Security taxes, cutting overtime pay, cutting what was the other couple that he talked about, giving tax breaks to companies that make
taxes on
product,
tips.
giving tax breaks, no taxes for companies that make products in the U.S. that are American made. I think all of that is actually putting money in people's pockets. I think that's the bigger element. Now, I do think there's going to be inflation. I agree with you, because with the tariffs, there's definitely going to be items that are going to be more expensive. I think the Fed is going to be very interesting in how they play that, and that could dictate the market 100%. But I don't think it's going down 8 to 10%. I don't think the correction is going to happen this year.
Okay, cool. Chris?
I feel like no matter what, staying in your lane is probably the best choice, right? So if you understand specific technologies, then like nuclear, as an example, isn't going down anytime soon, right? So like if you're investing in things that rely on like air travel, right? If you're invested in like a lot of that stuff is heavily manipulated by by social constructs and all that stuff. So I would say stay away from anything that COVID could drastically affect. And obviously COVID is an extreme, but all of those kinds of markets, kind of markets are very susceptible to everything that they just said. So
I like those call those markets what is like day-to-day markets. So like as long as day-to-day business keeps going, those markets will grow. But if day-to-day business is affected, they're not going to go anywhere.
You mean like Peloton? What was it? The height of the COVID was $400, and now it's like what, $7?
Yeah, tulip mania. Yeah, I mean, either way, I personally like crypto. I think there's going to be. So what I think is going to happen is that a couple things. So us being a producer instead of a buyer of oil and gas is going to help. I think the tariffs are also going to help, and I think what this is going to do is help strengthen the dollar globally as far as like the value of the dollar. So I think it's a smart plan that way. And how is he going to balance that out with some of the inflation that we might see? Well, he's going to cut taxes. So sooner or later, not sooner or later, but sooner rather than later, it will actually start working really well. And so let's see what we do with all of this money. Hopefully the money that he cut is going to pay down the national debt instead of create other weirdo programs for.
I mean, we are seriously under threat by BRICS. I mean, if we don't do something, and like I'm glad we're doing a lot of it now, but BRICS is no joke, and they're accumulating momentum, and it's going to be scary.
Well, I hate to say this, but thank you, Biden administration, for that. When it came to economic sanctions, that was a card that you don't play, because you basically say you give them kind of a death stroke, and you use your dollar against them. And that completely backfired, because then it demonstrates what you'll do to other countries in a time like that. So that actually was one of the worst decisions that you could possibly do, because all these other countries are going to see that, and why would the dollar be so strong? Why would we continue to trade and do agreements based off this? So I don't know. These are questions that are answered way above my head and how they're going to handle it. But 401k returns and retirement funds are going to still have to continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree. Remember, guys, Wu-Tang is forever, but Mike's mom's OnlyFans account is not. So sign up now.
You keep making fun of my mother, Ricardo. When you come to New York, I'm gonna leave you on the side of the road next to.
You already do that. I came to New York for 4 days.
That's right. I did leave
2 hours with me, fuckface.
No, I spent like 6 hours. Sorry, yeah. I can't rave all night long on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, it was such a horrible. Sitting on the patio of like a 5-star hotel, watching your buddy drop a set, like as the sun sets over the city.
I enjoyed it, but when it hit like 1 o'clock in the morning, I was like, all right, bedtime.
Pussy.
Just to be clear, sorry. For those of you who don't know, BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China trying to unify under the same currency to do business, to trying to battle the dollar.
So you're telling me that's not what I'm going to hit Ricardo over the head with when I see him when he comes?
No, not that kind of brick. No K. There's no K in the brick.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I talked to my folks about this, and they're in the banking business, and this is the response I got from them. they were like, and this is 30, 35 years, maybe 40 years of international finance. The response was, we never understood why a transaction between Italy and Venezuela should involve U.S. dollars. And so, the thing is, yeah, like, and so they're kind of like, they're American, they love America, they're here, but they're just also like, some of this shit is completely unnecessary, So, I don't think BRICS is going to go away. Do I think it's going to replace the dollar? No, not at all. I don't think there's a chance.
If we don't make change, it'll take us over eventually, just because of the size of the populations. I mean.
I agree. I mean,
yeah, but that's it's also about generating products. It's also about your agreements between all these other countries. Too many countries, especially the EU, relies on us.
Well, they're incorporating all these South American countries that have all these mineral rights. So like they're already in Venezuela, trying to bring in Guatemala, and
the military, the United States military, I don't know if you know
agree.
this, is a very powerful machine. Can you hear me in this microphone? Hold on. Let me get a little closer.
I don't know, but it's a way better shot of your face. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Top
you
of your
should
head
do it
is much
because
better looking.
it's definitely you should do it because clearly I don't want to see that ugly mug of yours.
Because all day I don't want to see your face.
All day I don't want to dream you.
That's okay.
What was I going to say? Yeah, so I don't know, man. I mean, I agree, dude. It's true. Who knows? I think there's a lot of fuckery going on, but if you've noticed, there's been a trend in trying to get coalitions together, right? It's, we got we got, what is the Economic Forum, and then like, what is it, the EU?
Davos.
Davos. Whatever. I mean, like, all of these things are just ways to engage in collaborative agreements so that they can collectively have more power and leverage over the U.S. But the U.S. doesn't need anybody else right now, and so that's no matter how many countries.
Tips in the vodka.
Yeah, and so like, let me ask you this: this is what happens, right? There's a decision that needs to be made, and it's a serious decision, and it's a monetary one, and the president, he's got his advisors. He's one dude's got to make the decision. BRICS has 84 countries. You're gonna get 84 of those motherfuckers to all agree on whatever you're gonna do. Good luck with that. I love that. You know how it worked out great for the United Nations.
Yeah, true.
Which gets funded by us.
Not anymore. not
anymore.
Oh yeah, I was just saying not anymore. Yeah, you're right.
All right, guys, let's move on to our last topic, which is dating. This is Elvis's topic. I try to stay clear from this stuff, but I'm down to.
Yeah, because you can't find a nice guy there.
Oh.
No, the trouble is I can only find nice guys here.
No, I mean, just something I've been thinking about and interacting, and I just figured out it's I think we need to do a better job of kind of like having conversations that are just our own anecdotal experiences based on where we live and how we lived our lives. And this is just one of those topics, right? I mean, obviously I've lived in San Diego. I've never lived in New York. So like I have experiences with two of the three, obviously, but I don't know what your experience is like. I also have never been a lawyer in New York, so I'm sure that probably has some perks. It's got
horrible. It makes it worse, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I thought it started off with this article I saw about love bombing, which I thought was funny as shit.
Narcissist.
Yeah, love bombing is essentially. I always considered it as a bad thing, like where you are essentially like over texting, over doing the things. It's almost like simping, sort of, in a way. Obviously, the problem with love bombing is if Brad Pitt love bombs you, you're totally fine with it. But if somebody you're not attracted to love bombs you,
what's
it's totally
love
bad.
bombing? What is it?
It's a when you're just overly texting too much and flowers and you just coming in hard instead of like kind of letting things play out like organically. Right.
So was the article saying this is negative or positive?
Well, it's saying that for a while it was okay, and now it's saying, is it toxic? And I've always thought it was toxic trait. I always thought it was more like simping, I guess. But maybe, and again, like I said, if you're Brad Pitt and you're like love bombing people, they're probably receptive to it. But if you're just average Joe Schmo, there's too much is right. Too much is an ick now, right? If you're texting too much or flowers too much or whatever, it's. I just thought it was interesting.
First of all, I don't send any flowers out. All right, so let's get that fucking straight. The only people that get flowers are my sister
dead
and
people.
and my mother. And yeah, when I go to the grave during the holiday season, I do get flowers
I'm
from
not
family
going to
members.
visit your grave at all.
Your ex-girlfriend's grave? Why do you have ex-girlfriend's graves? That's weird.
I never said that. I said my family, that have passed away. No, love bombing. Love bombing is a technique that's typically used by narcissists. I've read a lot about this. Actually, it's basically when you overindulge them, or a person that you're dating. Typically through text message, manipulation, control. Oh my God,
is this after or before intercourse?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It could be a combination. It could be a combination. So sometimes you go on a
During
date.
or during?
What a lawyer! What a lawyer answer. Is
So it could happen.
after or before intercourse. It could be a combination.
No,
of both.
because what happens is you
How
could
do
go
you
out on a
define
date.
intercourse?
You could go on a date with a girl that you just met, have sex, and then afterwards it could happen,
love
or you
bomb her?
or you can do it before you go on a date, or after you go on a date, but before you have sex. So some girls or some relationships take a couple weeks to have sex, so it's a combination. Love bombing is scary. It is toxic in so many ways because you make the other person believe like you're a soulmate. Like everything, is perfect. We're God's gift together, and it's typically like a false belief. It's a manipulation tactic. I've been in relationships, specifically my last one, that was very similar in that regards. We're soulmates. I wish I met you. I would have had 10 kids with you already, like within the first couple of kind of months of dating and stuff like that. It's like a hook. It's a bait and hook sort of thing.
Right.
You don't realize it either when you're in it, and it's a tactic that's used by a lot of people to get a person very, very interested. I would highly suggest against it. You should kind of let a relationship grow, dating grow, and I think it using any manipulation tools at the beginning of a relationship and always trying to control somebody or make them have false beliefs about a person you are or a relationship or where you're going is just not authentic, and it tends to lead to problems long term in a kind of dating world.
Yeah, I don't think in dating. I don't think taking. Okay, well, so I feel like there's a couple different things. What I've learned, especially from you guys have been through my journey here, is that there's like two types of dating, right? There's dating when you're dating to achieve an outcome, and then there's dating when you're trying to get to know people. And the difference between the two is how comfortable somebody is with themselves. If you have stuff that you haven't worked out and insecurities and things that your mind is probably compartmentalizing, then you start doing things like love bombing, because what you're focused on is the outcome. Okay, the outcome is the validation, right? And then there's when you want to get to know someone, what your focus is on Socratic inquisition. Like you're asking them questions and you're trying to understand what makes them think, what kind of person they are. And what I've noticed is that depending on which modality I'm in, if I'm validation seeking, I don't date. I don't go out. If I'm in a mode where I know that I'm validation seeking, and sometimes in my profession it's necessary for inspiration, I try not to think about romantic things like that. But if I'm in a mode where I feel extremely good about myself and the things that I have achieved, that's when I try to open myself up a little bit more to conversations and to dates. So that's one of the effects that I think, love bombing, like, let's see, what's the cause of the love bombing in the first place?
Right, forcing an outcome.
Secondly, love bombing isn't a new thing. It's been around forever. We used to call it pillow talk. Yeah, basically you say whatever the fuck you need to get laid, and that's never going to change.
When did they call that pillow talk? Was this like the 60s or 50s?
72, 73, I think, is when we were using it.
Yeah.
I think it was just a couple years after we landed on the moon, if I remember.
Because you were born in the 50s, right? Yeah.
1932. Yeah.
Shout out Scorpion Percussion.
Shout out Scorpion.
Fucking retarded.
So one of the things that I've noticed about dating here in California, let's think about this. So I recently, probably like November, I have been single for a few months, so I haven't been really making a huge effort. I definitely go out a lot. I have an events company and I'm a DJ, so I'm around large groups of attractive women pretty much consistently. The problem is it's really loud where they are, so you're not like having a really strong conversation. Yeah, where I am. And, well, they're there too. So
yeah.
But here's what I've noticed, and this is completely
So
anecdotal.
not construction sites. Got it.
Yeah, not construction. What I've
Not
noticed is
men,
like,
not men's
So-
bathroom. Got it.
I met a couple girls like in the past couple weeks that are cute. I met one specific individual that will remain nameless. We had a wonderful conversation, and at the end of the night, I was like, "Yo, let's get some dinner on Friday." And that person was like, "Cool, I don't have a boyfriend. Let's do it." I ended up having to go out of town that Friday, and then I let her know. And then on Monday, when I contacted that person to reschedule or whatever, they are already dating somebody else. And so, like, what I think also is happening is that there's an environment that if you are willing, if you're not filtering things out, right, you can get a lot of attachment and validation, right? Especially if you're a girl. There's a lot of guys who would rather talk to the wrong girl than not talk to anybody at all. And so I think a lot of that, what I see here, and I don't know yet, because I haven't really gone out and, dated anyone yet. Previously, San Diego has been a problem with choice. There's too many options. And so people are always sort of having dating FOMO. Like, am I with the right person? If I meet a person that makes this much more money, or am I be able to live in a different part of the town? And so there's a lot of transactional dating that's happened, I think, in California because there's a lot of options here. But it's also where the most beautiful people are at. And so, like, just like the people with the most gold get to make the rules, the most attractive people get to make the dating social rules, regardless of who they are. And that's what I call the privilege of beauty. Okay, just like white privilege, the beautiful people get to dictate
White privilege.
how we fuck each other. Okay, and so like, and if you're out there and you're ugly, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I see that recently the discussions that I've had with girls, not just girls, but women, people that can take care of themselves, have been that they're sick of the transactional dating. They're actually getting really sick of it. And it's like they're really annoyed with women who haven't made an effort to improve or take care of their lives using transactional dating to satisfy their needs and not to find a partner. And this is kind of turning a lot of the guys off. I read somewhere that like 70% of guys are just not interested in dating right now. And I think that's the best news America could have gotten. Because what those guys are interested in is making fucking money and making shit better.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Exactly. And you can't do that if you're constantly having to take care of somebody else's problems. And so, including your own. Right? And so I do believe that we're seeing a drift away from the transactional dating. And I don't know what that's going to become. But for me, the one difference that I have going out into the dating world now than before is that the one thing that I think is important for a partner that I have is what I call having the ability to do something that brings them joy. And so on the dates that I go on, I always ask girls, what is the one thing that you do that only you do for yourself that brings you joy? And if they don't have something, then feel it out, right? But if they say anything that has to do with external validation, never go on a date with that person again.
Well, as much as I hate this person, he did make a very good point. What's
Ricardo? You hate Ricardo?
Oh, by far, we all know that. What's his name? Dan. What's the guy Dan on?
Shout out
Instagram?
Scorpion Percussion.
Stupid fucking assholes.
Shout out Mitch
what's the guy
Dodge while
do?
we're at it. Shout out Mitch Dodge.
Shout out Jeff. Shout out Jeff.
Turbo.
No. What's the guy on Instagram? Dan something. He's the guy that goes around with the horse.
Blazarian.
3
Bazarian.
billion Dans. God.
Yeah, Dan Bazarian. So
Oh,
he
yeah,
said
we'll talk
something.
about this.
He said something. He
Jeff
was
will
like,
talk about that in a second.
Yeah, he talked about how if your only commodity is your looks fade. If you have nothing else, you have no personality, if you have no goals, you have no aspirations, you have nothing that you also offer outside of your looks, then your basically value is nothing because your looks are going to go away. Ricardo, you made a very good point, which I agreed with you. Everything is transactional. The problem with the dating scene now is as much as everybody likes to pin guys as they want to be single the rest of their life, actually, that's not really the true aspect. Guys really do, or a lot of men really do get sick of the dating scene and actually would like at some point to have a relationship, to have kids, to leave a legacy, to build something. And the problem nowadays is that transactional element from the opposite sex has caused guys to reevaluate relationship standards and what they want. And they don't want to be in their 30s and all of a sudden, excuse me, late 30s, and all of a sudden meet a woman that's in their late 30s and then be given a list of demands and told you have to do this by a date. So a lot of men that I know that are single are just over it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm in the same boat. I'm over it as well, especially being in New York, where the dating pool is actually in my favor, but the quality of dating is so horrifically bad that it's like you don't even want to get involved. You just look at the commonalities and you look at the transactional nature of it, and you're just like, what's the purpose? It makes no sense.
I mean, I've always hated dating. I always thought it was just a fucking hindrance to people having sex. I mean, this should just be like, like, I don't care. I don't care where you went to school. I just care that you're hot and that you're not going to fucking kill me when I'm asleep. And, like, let's see if we can get along. Like, how about starting somewhere, like, reasonable, man? Like, I don't care how much fucking money you make. And you're never going to know how much money I have. Never. Ever.
Yeah, I made that one mistake before. Never do it again. Ever in my life.
Yeah, so I actually
there's only two people that should know how much money you have. That's you and the IRS.
Yeah. Yeah, so I went on a date and could tell right away that she's wants attention. That's it. She wants to play games. And what I realized is that when you're as a guy in your 20s, you're willing to put up with a lot more shit to get attention from women, right? And so, but we're not idiots, like we know right away whether or not there's a possibility of a relationship or not.
Yeah.
And so in our 20s, when we make that decision in our mind, whether or not there's a relationship or not a relationship, then we say, hey, can we get laid in this, and so, that's the focus of the rest of the interaction is if we think that there's no relationship possibility, then we want to try to get sex, right?
Yeah.
If we think there is a possibility of a relationship, we usually fuck it up because we're in our 20s. I mean, that's just right. But now, like, older, they're late. I'm in my early 40s.
You're old as shit too.
Yeah, I just like when you start playing games with me, I don't
It's
care.
over.
I
It's
just
over.
don't care. Like, cool, man. Like that's what you want to do, and that's fine. And but like, I'm not interested in chasing you. I don't want to chase you. I want peace in my life. So if you're like, if you can support me and bring me peace, like I will settle for a lot less than
I agree.
than I'm looking for.
I mean, I think for the first time in my life, I've actually had personality be a red flag. I mean, like, I'm crazy. I'll dive in with the craziest.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
But for the first time, I'm like, bro, like, like I love the adventure. I love the sex. Keeps it fun. But the amount of stress on my body and on my mind is like, I might as well just fucking have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like, I'm not sleeping. I'm like thinking about what am I going to be judged on when I get to my house that I didn't fucking do. And the whole telepathic thing just drives me nuts. I don't know if you guys ever dated a woman that wants you to be telepathic, where they're like, where you're like, I'm like, what do you need? And they're like, ice cream, but I shouldn't have to tell you that. And I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know that?
Or you asked 4 times if something's bothering them, but you didn't ask the 5th time, and they get mad at you for not asking your 5th time. I look, I think, Chris, you hit it on the head. You get to a point where it's like, you don't want to play those games. You don't want to be, dealing with that shit. You got to an age where you thought you were over that. The other thing I think is also for men just in general is women think that men don't have, they're dealing with psychological like demons or issues in their own right. We don't express a lot. Like we don't talk a lot about things. So there's a problem where sometimes we need to communicate, but we don't communicate things because we feel like women are going to use it against us in certain aspects. So we have all these like issues that we're dealing with, and they don't understand that. And as you get older, you get better. You get better at dealing with them and working through them, and you finally get to a point where you're at peace, you're at calmness, like you feel comfortable, you have confidence and all of this. And then when you throw in that relationship, it just throws that whole thing off because it's all these other new dynamics that cause you headaches because of games, because of that transactional nature, because of jealousy in certain things. So it makes no sense sometimes.
So what I've realized is that, we'll call it vulnerability just to summarize a lot of that stuff that you just talked about. That vulnerability is only attractive if she adores you and you're higher in her mind. Obviously, I'm not really saying that you are, but in her mind, you're a better person or better whatever, right? You're the prize, right? If the girl that you're dating thinks that you're the prize, you can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
If it's the other way around, where you're chasing her, you can't be vulnerable. It's not a thing.
Don't chase women. Don't do it.
I saw this thing where we're talking about how one of the fundamental differences between when we go on dates versus when women go on dates is that when we go on dates, we have no expectations. It's just she was. There's
Just
something
looking for a
about
good
her.
conversation.
Well, there's something about her that clearly was attractive enough to get me out of the house to go see her, and that's about as far as I've gotten, right?
Yeah.
But for women, then this is from a woman, is that if they have made the decision to leave the house to go on a date with you, they've already built this sort of future, some aspect of it in their mind, and so essentially, your job as a man is to not detract from the 100 that you had at the beginning of the date. And so honestly, one of the best strategies for dating for men especially the first couple dates is to not talk.
Ask questions.
Just
don't
ask
talk.
questions.
Ask
Don't
questions.
tell them shit about you.
Yeah, but that's not
because you can't-
authentic.
No, I know, but I look, I'm just saying ask
No,
questions.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're
ask
saying.
questions, Socratic method, right? And find out more about them. And, they will like you more at the end of the day if they spent more time talking than you talked.
Listen,
That's just, that's just fact.
I'd rather go on a date, be myself the entire time, talk. I've done that, and you know what's got me? The same place always.
Maybe it gets you laid.
Listen, we don't have a problem with the ladies over here, all right? We don't have a problem with the ladies over here. No.
Just that you said that makes me think
There's
you
that
have a
short
problem
king
with
energy
the
we talked about
ladies.
earlier. Yeah, there's that short king energy.
Right. Okay. Anyways, no, I think it's just be authentic, be yourself. The problem is, if you go on enough dates and you meet enough women, the one that likes that authentic nature of you is the one that fits you. You can't put on these shows because the problem is if you put on shows, you're building the foundation on a rocky foundation. It's not who you are. So eventually when you start opening up and start acting certain ways, this person's going to have a generalization or a realization, and a female is going to have to turn around and say, oh, this is how he is. I don't like these things, but I'm 2 months in, 3 months in. Do I continue going down roads?
So that to me tells me, Mike, that you got some work to do, because if you can't sit there and ask questions for a date and
No, it's not
authentically give a shit
Yeah, I think
without having to
No,
talk
it's-
about yourself.
I think
then-
what
No,
they call
it's
what you're
an
doing is called
authentic person.
oversharing. Oversharing.
yeah.
No,
Oversharing
it's
is
not.
definitely a thing.
You guys have no fucking idea. You've never been on a date with me, but it's called being authentic self. It's being
That's
an
a good
authentic
point.
self. Obviously, you ask questions, but it's yourself. You still talk the
I'm
same
not
way.
saying
You
don't be yourself. I'm not saying don't be yourself.
do me a
but
favor. Go fucking date in Indianapolis, all right? Go fucking do your own thing. Ricardo,
I've
go
dated
date
a-
your guys.
He tried to go
Go
speed
fucking die.
dating, but it was sold out for men
out for men,
only.
yeah. No, but seriously,
Don't fucking
and this is-
psychoanalysis
and
me.
It's
like
kind
you,
of it's
oh,
obviously
this
a little
is
bit
why
of
you're
it's
that
a little
way.
bit of an over an exaggeration. But if
Shout
you're on a date
Scorpion percussions.
as a man, it is better to lean towards talking less and less sharing than it is to overshare. You're more likely to turn them off if you overshare than you are if you undershare. That's
I
just
don't give a shit
that's
if
just
I turn them off.
I
well, I know, but I'm
found-
just saying.
I have found in the past of my blessed,
Past of mine?
my blessed and grateful for my past sexual past.
That's
that
75.
if a woman
2 people?
wants exactly those two saints, if a woman wants to be with you or around you, she will fucking stab
Yeah.
other women to get through to be in front of you.
100%.
And so, and it's hard because men want sex all the time, right? But this doesn't happen often. And I learned this not just from observing girls, but like one time a girlfriend and I went to a breeder to get a new Doberman puppy. And
I was gonna say, what were you talking about breeding there?
yeah, and there was a litter, which is like a bunch of puppies. And then the guy who was giving us away, he's like, "This is how you should choose the puppy. You guys sit down in the grass over here, and I'm gonna grab the litter and I'm gonna put them over here, and then I'm gonna let them go, right? And they're gonna go everywhere. And the first one that crawls all the way over to you guys without you signaling, that's your puppy." And I think if a lot of people had the patience to look at some of the relationships in their lives the same way, that if you are doing what you're doing, there are people that are watching, whether you think so or not. And the ones that are interested in what you're doing will approach you. And there's going to be that one special puppy that will always be approaching and around. And when you see that, then you know you don't have to even go on a date or change your word, that there's something about your energy that that person enjoys being around. And I find that those make the longest lasting relationships.
I got you. So basically, you told me you like dating puppies. Got it.
Well, that's how the podcast started. You guys found me. So
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't find anybody. I didn't find Ricardo came found me.
you. What? Just got
Yeah.
over here. But real
I think
quick,
what we should do. I think what we should do is we should actually bring a female on the show.
We're going
and talk
to.
about dating.
We will. I have a couple guests that I'm lining up for this year as soon as we figure out the best way to do guests. We had our guest last week, which was great. Shout out to Andre Caltieri. He's a great artist. And I don't know how to say his
Whoa.
I've known him for like 10
Whoa.
years, and I don't know how to
Whoa.
say his last name. It's Couturier. But Jeff in the chat, real quick, wanted us to talk about GME Bitcoin. So I don't know much about GameStop. I haven't been following it. I don't know if you guys do, but I do know that Bitcoin is killing it, and I think that there's no reason to not buy Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin, straight coin from Coinbase. I think you should, if you can afford to put $30 a week into Bitcoin, and dude, it's better than any investment you're going to make. I think Bitcoin is going to be worth a lot. What do you guys think about Bitcoin? You guys know anything about GameStop or whatever?
So I'm looking up GameStop's price.
no,
right
I
now.
mean, I don't know. I don't own any Bitcoin, but I saw somebody the other day who was saying, like, look, in the history of technology, someone's always found a way to destroy the next thing, and so there's a lot of people that think it's only a matter of time before somebody figures out how to hack it and ruin it. So that's just
That's a danger for sure.
yeah.
The GameStop thing, and I think what Jeff's referring to is what we call these meme stocks. And so there's a lot of chatter on Reddit and all of these sort of boards, social boards, where these guys kind of like share information and they pump the stock up. I will tell you, I have personally witnessed a stock pump of my own doing. When I worked at a corporation, when I was able to use a much larger portion of our advertising budget on social media to push our press releases, our stock went up for absolutely no fucking reason. So I know this is possible, and it's not very difficult to do.
Well, you didn't push you didn't push the stock up. You basically just released press releases on contracts.
Sure,
and stuff like
no,
that,
yeah, I didn't
and the
know.
stock artificially
all
went up.
real information, but it hadn't occurred in 20 years
Yeah.
to anyone in the building to fucking talk about the press releases on social media and boost them. So
Yeah.
but that's another story. But anyways, but I know that the manipulation is somewhat possible, and I would say it could swing anywhere from 10 to 20% depending on how much money you spend on ads. And so I don't know. I don't know anything about the GameStop thing. I'm more of a fundamental I basically incriminated myself. No, I did not incriminate myself.
Is the statute of limitations out on that?
Statute of limitations. But I'm in California. They can't pin anything on anybody out here, man. You think they're gonna get me in front of a judge before 2032 out here, man? Fuck that. Those people have better things to do, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, they
no.
don't.
And like
No,
Mike
they
said,
No, they don't.
it's like, yeah, I've looked at their stock lately. They don't have a lot better things to do. But yeah, no. So I mean, it was just an advertising program that was able to have a directly measurable reaction with the public, and so that's why these stocks are all trading at 17x. It's not because I did something illegal. It's because all companies are just publishing much more information on what they're doing. Yeah, hype. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm a fundamentalist when it comes to stocks, and Chris is a single point of failure guy. And Mike, I think, is just an overall market conditions kind of person. I don't believe in meme stocks. I didn't buy any NFTs. I think, I don't have the best opinion of the GameStop thing because I don't know much about it. But I'm
Short squeeze.
yeah, I mean, what I've seen, and this is, and I don't believe this of my buddy Jeff who brought this up. I don't think he's that kind of person, but I've seen a lot of people that don't traditionally come from a financial education that jump on these kind of. I mean, they know the internet really well and they know media really well, but they don't know much about how the market and who really moves the market. And so I see a lot of these types of people who are like, hey man, look at it. And I think it's sort of a rebellion thing. It's like, hey man, I don't need to work on Wall Street. I could just be on a chat board and watch me affect the outcome of this price. And I think it's possible, but is it going to make anybody rich? Probably only the first 5 guys that start it are probably going to make a lot of money. I'm not sure. I would love for Jeff to come on the show and give us a little bit more information on why he thinks these things might be cool.
But I mean, how much is this really that dissimilar to, normal stock trading, right? I mean, essentially you're sitting there, you're looking at the indicators, you're looking at the numbers, and you're speculating because if you don't have any insider information, then you're just kind of, basing. And then, boom, a news article comes out and the stock price changes to 12% in a day, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. But it's the same thing with all these other things, and I feel like there's two factors. One, it gives a ton more people access to potentially making money, but high risk. So, and that's almost everything in the stock market's always been like that. There's tons of opportunity to make money, but it's also high risk. So.
Yeah. So my take.
Ramp meter.
Shout out
Yeah.
Scorpion Percussion.
No.
I guess I have to since I haven't done it.
Fundamentals used to run these stocks up. It used to show increases, decreases. Fundamentals were the name of the game. Still, a lot of people believe in the fundamentals when they're investing. Unfortunately, a lot of these stocks are trading right now so out of whack compared to the fundamentals. They shouldn't be trading. It's a little bit more speculative nature. Going back to the meme stocks, GameStop. If you go back to that time when it blew up, it clearly the fundamentals were so out of whack. The company was contemplating, I think it was like bankruptcy. They had no money, nothing of that. So it made no sense. Institutional money was heavily behind it as well because of individuals that were shorting the stock that ended up getting smoked. So, there's a lot of retail investors that go out there and invest. They don't do the work. They don't understand the stocks. They just listen to a lot of people. And I hate to put it this way, the stock market and these financial firms take advantage of you for doing that because you throw in a lot of money on these stocks that are basically pieces of crap. There was, I think it was Bill Ackman that showed there was a deli that was in New Jersey that was on the exchange trading at I think it was like $18 a share. And he was like, they have one store and they generate like $50,000 or less in revenue. It was like, the market's just a really tricky thing. Like you got to do your research when you throw money in. It's great that you watch Bloomberg. It's great that you watch some of these shows and they're telling you certain things and you're trying to take an interest, but you really have to do the research. You really have to see the product, what they offer. Like if you asked a lot of people what NVIDIA does, most of them can't even tell you. They just know they're involved in AI and they do some things with chips. But if you don't know who they are and you're just like, okay, I'm throwing the money in here, it's a problem.
My favorite thing, Warren Buffett during COVID was asked, what you should invest in. He said to invest in yourself. He's like, look, if I had the opportunity to go around and ask college, people like in their freshman year, like, hey, if you sign a contract, I'll give you $100,000. When you graduate with your bachelor's degree, then I get 10% of your income for the next 50 years, like how much you would make essentially. Right. And so he's saying like, just, if you don't know, if you're not a savvy, person who's like, studied the stock market or whatever, if you don't have an inside track on something, if you don't know, whatever, the best thing you can do is just, invest in yourself get a degree, get a
Yeah.
certification, spend that money somewhere else, and then if you get a real high-paying job and you have a bunch of surplus, then start asking people and investing the excess money that you get later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, investing high risk, unless you do real estate or gold or something like that. But I agree. I mean, these types of transactions have spread throughout the retail market during the pandemic, and with the advent of things like what's that one place, the app that you can invest in that gamifies everything,
Robinhood.
Yeah.
which makes it.
Who stopped people from selling out of their
Yeah.
GameStop
It's just like
positions?
I'm sure,
Yeah.
but and like I found
Yeah.
out how they got onto the market as well. So they're like pre-purchasing a bunch of
Yeah,
shares
yeah.
first. So they're going to incentivize those purchases. So it's not too much different from like a fund manager on an app. But
Yeah, who's collateralizing their stock picks on the backside, or the agency that's putting those picks in?
yeah, so it's all shady. But ultimately, I think if people would understand, and it took me a while to get this, is that there's like 5 banks that own like 70% of all the shares. And it doesn't mean anything nefarious. What it does mean is if those banks decide that they want the price of a certain stock to go down, all they need to do is start selling shares of that stock, and for no fucking rational reason whatsoever. And there's they own enough of it so they can change the market, even if that company is like a 700 beat on earnings. It doesn't matter. And so there's always the gorilla in the room. So there's always like a bookie. Like you're definitely playing with fire in the market. Now, does that happen often? No, not necessarily. There's a lot of regulation in place to get that done. But what I would say is that it's a lot safer to bet on something that you know about, and a product that you might even be using yourself or find useful, because there's a lot of financial engineering that happens in boardrooms.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, crazy, crazy.
All right, I'm tapped out. I have nothing else to add.
Yeah, I'm tapped out too.
Finally,
All
Mike,
right.
shut the fuck up. I love it.
Yeah, seriously. Thanks, Jeff, for that
Fuck you.
for that comment.
Fuck you. Thank you for the therapist and telling me the reason that I am not good at dating.
Wow.
I appreciate
I
it.
mean, I
wow.
didn't say it was a problem that you had, but it sounds pretty sensitive.
No, you did. That's what's exactly
wow.
what you said.
You're
I think,
oversharing?
Mike, your issue is. No, you just were like, I think, Mike, your issue with dating is you probably talk too much.
I think we said overshare, but yeah, you can
Yeah.
call it that too.
Overshare. Sorry.
I don't know. I mean, use it to help yourself
overshare.
be a better dater, or
No, I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna be
all right,
myself.
I mean, Roger Federer.
I'm not
It's a
55.
good
That's
date.
both of
Roger
you.
Federer's not a bad date. Just don't talk about tennis the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still young.
Shout out
You're still young,
Scorpion
man.
Percussion.
You know, do
Shout
whatever you
out-
want.
You can do whatever you want. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me, of course, on another episode of Almost Patriots. This has been Groundhogs and Social Jet Lag. Thank you to all our all our viewers, watchers, listeners. I have a couple shows. Thanks to all our viewers today. Be sure to like and subscribe, and tune in next week, every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, for another episode. Follow us on social media. Follow us on Instagram for announcements, and check out our reels. Chris works on those. They're pretty fucking hilarious. And take care of each other, I guess, guys. Like always.
And X.
Oh,
and
follow
X.
us on X. Yeah, we're on X. Follow us on X or Twitter. As always, guys, big thank you to Mike in New York, Elvis in Indianapolis,
Same stuff.
And
Don't be a
myself
douchebag.
here in California, holding down the fort. We'll see you guys next week.